Hello.
Hello, Robert Burke. Hello, Erik Medhus. How you doing?
He's like,
Oh gosh, he used to do that. Oh my gosh, so goofy. Well, we can either do a little potpourri session of different small questions that are not big enough for one YouTube, or we can bring in David Bowie. Bowie. Why do I say Bowie all the time? Oh, which
he's
one do you want to do?
just smiling. Eric said just do the potpourri questions for now.
Okay.
Mr. Bowie likes to watch, he said.
Oh, ooh, I like to watch. Okay.
That
Is
didn't
he in the
sound.
room?
He's here. I can see him, yeah.
Okay, good.
Well, I mean, I not literally see him, but I know he's here. I can feel him.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, somebody wants to know about witchcraft. What's that all about? Is it real? Can people put spells on people?
Eric said witchcraft. Yeah, Eric said witchcraft is real.
Hmm.
For some reason, I want to say that like with a speech impediment. When I try to, it doesn't seem to come out right.
No, you sounded good.
Eric said, "Yeah, Mom, it's real." He said, "I think most people misunderstand though what it is. It's not a bunch of women standing around a cauldron with long pointy noses and hats and warts on their face and all that." Eric says it's not about that. It's about connection to the earth, worship in the earth itself,
Oh, okay.
and all of the things that spring forth from the earth.
Well, why did it get such a bad rap and people
It's a
putting
worship.
spells and evil curses and stuff? Why did?
It's a worship of nature.
Okay.
Yeah. Eric says all of that really comes from other people's fear of what they don't know,
Okay.
and they go and they create that. Eric says uh, there are certain. What are you saying? Okay, he said there are certain divisions, just like religion, where people will use it in a way that is manipulative or to instill fear, right? But
Like
by and
right,
large,
like Muslims versus jihadists, that sort of thing.
far right religious Christians,
Yeah. Yeah.
with someone who's more in the middle.
Okay.
Um, but Eric says that in witchcraft, though, you don't see that really. It's a minority.
Okay.
Someone wanting to do something evil to someone else, right?
Hmm.
Eric says it's a minority, just like it is in religions, really. Eric
Sure.
says it feels like a lot of religions are very hostile. And, he said they may have collectively some messages that, uh, may feel hostile, right?
Hmm.
But by and large, most of the people who are very radical within those are a small minority. They just get a lot of attention.
Okay. Well, by worshiping Mother Earth and nature and all that, it's kind of a pagan type, I'll say religion, I guess. So, did some of the bad rap come from Christianity?
It's just what he was getting ready to bring
Oh,
up.
okay.
He said in actuality, I did not know this. He's somehow witchcraft itself, of course, and any of those pagan religions existed prior to Christianity
Hmm.
and to a lot of the other major religions that we know now. But it was actually an influence of all these others that we know: Christianity, uh, uh, Muslim, Buddhism.
Hmm.
No, Eric said not Buddhism,
Okay.
but there's several others that influenced religion, paganism itself, right?
In what
Eric
way?
says,
Oh, go ahead.
Eric says the main influence was just this theme of love, right? A lot of religions were brought that in from paganism, and the sense of worship, something worshiping something that you could not, that was greater than you.
Okay.
That was the source that enabled you. Right?
Mm.
Uh, but he says that when Christianity and some of the other religions, but particularly Christianity, he says when it started to come about and wanted to take root, and people who were, I guess you could say, people of power, wanted to use that and establish that within their cultures,
Hmm.
they naturally wanted to start pushing out other elements, right? To try and homogenize, I guess, everybody to this one way of belief,
Okay.
believing that it would bring everyone together.
Mm.
So some aspects of it were about that. And so then, of course, what do you do in order to push those others out? You start spreading rumors about them, making
Mm.
people afraid of those things,
Yeah.
right? And you outlaw it, and you do all kinds of things.
Well, can they are casting spells that which is that really true? I mean, can that happen?
Eric said, yeah, they can do that. But Eric says, here's the thing, though, that will inhibit, oh, okay, basically you have to believe that the spell is going to work.
Yeah, it's like thought creates reality, I guess, isn't it?
Right.
Okay.
If so Eric was just telling me now, he said, but let's bring up this scenario. You know, uh, a spell gets cast on you, right? And you think, oh, what a bunch of bull, right? But then things start happening like the way the spell says they were going to happen. Eric says, you know what that's about? You have a belief somewhere in something that is rooted in fear, which is then enabling, and the spell itself is probably tied to that in some way, right? So Eric says, it's about, letting go of all of that, right? Because you still have that belief there, it's still the thing creating the reality. And on some level, on an unconscious level, you are just not admitting to yourself consciously that you do believe in it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's about honesty, right? You can lie to yourself all you want, but the truth will always show itself.
Oh, I know, I know. So if a witch casts a spell that I'm going to turn you into a pig, and somebody tells a joke and you snort and it sounds like an oink, that's it, boy. Then you might have poo-pooed the whole thing off until that happened, and then.
Well, and literally, Eric says, a spell doesn't literally turn you from one creature to another. He says the way that stuff works is it's really a mind fuck, is what it is, right? And you don't even realize that the spell itself has just made, brought into your sense of awareness an intention you already had there.
Okay.
And you start making it, in some cases it becomes self-fulfilling prophecies, right?
Oh. Okay. Ascended masters. People want to know if there really are ascended masters.
Yeah, hold on one second. He's saying that's why the whole belief in hell, when someone dies and they have such a strong belief that they're going to hell, or people who have a strong belief in going to hell and then they have near-death experiences and they feel like they went to hell.
Yeah.
It's all because that's what they believe.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Same thing applies with a spell.
Yeah. Ooh. All right, yeah, so ascended masters, do they exist?
He said in human, he used a big word. I've never heard him use big words.
Ooh, big boy.
He started to use bigger words with me, like he's growing up.
Oh, he's just got a rosy thesaurus tucked under his arm. He's hiding and looking up.
He said, you caught
Big
me.
words.
He said, you caught me. Damn. Anyway, he looked guilty.
Of course.
With a mischievous hint of mischievousness in it.
Mm-hmm.
He said, Mom, he said in human society we believe everything is hierarchical, and an ascended master indicates they're above.
Yeah.
Right? So in a spiritual terms, he said, and I've talked about this before, I've said that they exist. And he says, from a spiritual perspective, though, we don't really use those terms.
Okay.
He says, a lot of times I go back and I'll kind of set the stage for something later to help further educate people, right?
Mm-hmm.
He says, I do that a lot. So anyway, so he said, but if you want to use a term to define how spirits can be different, because they are different, then maybe you would call an ascended master with someone who has, or a spirit who has encountered had a lot of experiences, right?
Okay.
So in other words, they created a lot of connections, like a neuron, to a lot of different places. So they have access to a vast amount of awareness, right? That's literally connected within their soul. You don't have to go out and connect with another spirit or all that is to be able to pull in vast amounts of information, because they already have created all those connections for themselves, right? He says, you're Joe Schmo spirit. Sorry, that just sounds funny. Well, he might have to go to the well and, dip his toe in to connect to all that awareness, right? Because maybe he hasn't handled, the same amount of experiences. His experiences aren't quite as bad. So he said, so that's how I would define an ascended master.
That makes sense. So do they have a specific role, the ascended masters?
It just really depends on the individual. He says, the more awareness you have, most of them develop a feeling of that they should share, right, to teach others. So a lot of them you know, as a general rule, they become teachers,
I
right?
see. Are you an ascended? Would you be considered an ascended master, Eric, in terms of what humans think?
Eric says, I'm working on expanding my awareness.
Okay.
He said,
So when do you get to the point where okay, my awareness is this volume of kilometers, and so now I'm an ascended master. I
he
mean,
said,
how do you?
when that happens, then I won't have any time for any of you.
Oh,
He
hush up. I can still put you over my knee.
said, I'm like, I don't have time for you.
No, for real. For Rizzle, what do you do? I mean, when do you know that?
Uh, he said, I've said it this way before, but most ascended masters, right? They never label themselves that way. They always uh, come at it from a perspective of, you'll never know everything, right?
Yeah,
So you never get to a point where you say, okay, I'm this or I'm that,
you
right?
never reach the finish line. But
No, you never do.
say, our
Eric
friend
said,
Carrie, when would she consider you an ascended master now?
that's exactly what Eric was just getting ready to say. He said it's really the individual that might define me that way.
Okay.
One person may call me that, but then another person might not, right? So Eric says, for Carrie, sure as hell, I'm an ascended master because, kind of turns her on. I'm sorry.
Yes, it probably does. But what about the other blog members? Do you think most of them consider you see you as an ascended master?
He said there are a lot of them that do. Some of them, though, see me as simply a guide. Some of them see me as a buddy, right?
Okay, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So people see me in the way they need to see me, and then I respond in kind. I give
Okay.
them what it is I know they need.
All right. Ready for the next question?
He said, shoot.
Okay. I hate when you say something like that. Seriously, that's a wrong choice of words. Time travel. Somebody wants to know.
I didn't catch that. Oh,
Yeah. Somebody wants to know if people
terrible.
can. Just kidding. If time travel can really happen now, if humans are capable of time travel.
He said, yes, it can. He was just elaborating, though. He was, of course, going down this whole wormhole. Haha.
Oh boy.
Unintended. Or maybe it wasn't intended. He said, yeah, humans time travel all the time. He said, the most common way that they do it? He said, would you like for me to tell you?
Yeah.
Yeah. He said, well, let me think about that. Should I tell you? He goes, no, I'm kidding.
Uh,
Uh, he said, anytime you think about something that happened in the past, you're time traveling. You created a connection to that, right?
yeah.
He said, most people just think, oh, that's just so dull. Everybody does that all the time. But he says, you know what? You're pulling up a memory, and that memory is taking you to a point in time that no longer exists in your presence.
Yeah, you're projecting your consciousness, which is a piece of you, really, right? Is that what you're saying?
That's right. The same thing happens if you project into the future, right? And Eric says, well, he's going to start to create this very tangled web. But he said that you have the ability when you project into the past or into the future to actually change those events. He said, but the change itself occurs in more how you view the event.
Ah, your perspective can change.
Right. If you think back on, when your dog died or something sad happens, right? And you no longer feel sadness in that event, you have changed that event.
Okay.
Because the event itself is not what matters. It's how you feel about it. Right?
Okay, what about time travel like most people think of time travel, where you just go somewhere where the dinosaurs are and
Right.
see dinosaurs all around you.
Eric said all that shit, sure, yeah, it's going to happen.
But we can't do it now.
Not right now, no. Eric said there's other things we have to learn, several things. There's like 4 or 5 things we're going to need to learn prior to that.
Oh, really? Like what?
He said, well, one, we got to learn how to be responsible with that kind of power.
Oh, yeah.
He said, that's where responsibility is important, So he says we have to become adults first as a species.
Okay.
And within that, it encompasses a lot of things, really. In fact, almost all the steps that we need are all in that becoming an adult.
Responsibility.
Yeah. And becoming adults. When you think of as adults, you think of you're responsible. Eric says if you're truly wise and mature as a soul, then you're going to have kindness, and you're going to want to pursue things that you're going to understand how the whole constructive, destructive uh, forces work. You need to learn all of that before we start going down the road of.
And probably respect for the process. You probably need,
Respect was the word he used too.
and not use it for nefarious reasons.
Right. That comes in line with the whole knowing when to be constructive and when to be destructive. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're both necessary. Right?
So, in terms of linear Earth time, when do you see this happening?
Several hundred years, he said.
Several hundred years. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I won't be this body at the time.
Well, he said it's really a lot quicker than most other species. A lot of species, they might take them a million years before they get to that point.
Wow. Okay.
Humans.
Kudos to us, man.
Well,
We got it going on.
Eric said humans came here to fast track their evolution. It's why everything seems so overwhelming for us most of the time, you know?
Yeah. So much chaos.
Well, we came with a lot of our awareness of our emotional nature, you know, embedded within us. This entire planet, really, you know, is ultimately what we spring from. And this planet its energy is rooted in all of that, right? A great sense of its emotional awareness.
Okay.
I mean, every species has some level of emotionality. They just don't always have the same amount of awareness.
Okay.
Right?
Interesting. One more question, and then we'll have another session where we talk to David Bowie. I said it right, yes. You know, there's been these, and I see pictures of them right here on this piece of paper, and I'll put this on the blog, but there's these black circles over Disneyland that we're seeing. These weird, like almost like smoke rings, but just huge, and they move across the land, etc. What the heck is that?
Over Disney?
Yeah, it was Disneyland. Maybe it's been seen in other places too. I don't know.
Eric just said, well, it's nothing.
Okay, come on. It's something. We're seeing it. So many people have reported seeing it. And they have, there's YouTubes out there with people taking pictures of them. So you see them on video. Why, is it a hoax?
No, that's what I was asking. I was like, well, when you say it's nothing, is it a hoax or what? He said, no, it's not a hoax. It's just nothing to be afraid of. Well, then
what is it, though?
That's just what I asked him. Well, then what is it?
Don't be holding now.
Okay, he just keeps saying vortexes and wormholes.
Oh, interesting. So it's like, well, go ahead. Explain further.
It's partially connected with the way the Earth is changing. The weather, how people are, you know, like a lot of people are kind of emotionally like in an upheaval, right? Mm-hmm. All of that is a reflection of how the Earth is changing. And so the spots themselves are part of that change. But it's nothing bad.
What's it made of? What are they made from or of?
He's just said the word negative space.
Wow. Is it like dark energy?
He said, no, not really. It's not really like dark energy.
So negative space.
Dark energy and dark matter are really just forms of energy and matter that we just don't yet know what they are.
Okay.
And they're not really dark. It's just the dark just represents the veil that we have over.
I gotcha. Okay, so all right. So basically, how does
like,
it relate to a wormhole or a vortex?
He said, when I say negative space, it's literally like the opposite of what matter is.
Okay.
So it's not like a black hole, though. He says, I'm trying to verbalize this because humans don't really have a word for it. Mm-hmm. So I'm just putting it in these terms to try and help you understand.
What is it related to a wormhole?
He said sort of.
And how so?
Because if you're of a certain frequency of energy, you can travel through it.
Oh, okay.
Like that.
Interesting. All right. Anything else about it before we close?
But he said the negative space itself, because that's what it is made of, only things that are of similar type, negative space type things can go through it. I feel so ignorant because I don't know how to just verbalize.
Oh, no, we don't have the vocabulary.
Yeah, that's a big part.
But I kind of get it. You know, it's nothing to be afraid of. That's kind of the most important takeaway from this. So.
Yeah, and that's why Eric, I guess, was hesitant to go into more detail because if he verbalized it, then it would be confusing to us because it's confusing to me.
Yeah, we're easily confused, Robert and me.
I mean, I get it. I get it. Like instinctively and like
Yeah, me
emotionally.
too.
But
But I couldn't. I
but my
couldn't.
brain doesn't really.
Right. Right. All right. Sounds good. This was wonderful, and we will come back and talk to David Bowie very soon.
Absolutely. I